Hello, my name is Mina. I decided to start doing these videos because my husband works all day, and by the time he gets home, I have to tell him about all of the children and what they were up to, and then I might get like one story in about something crazy I learned about. So you're gonna take his place, basically. I'm gonna unload onto you so that I don't unload too much onto him. I'll show you like a crochet stitch, and then I'll just get to talking. Um, Mostly I crochet, but I also do other yarn art, so I might end up switching. But yeah, I have my two youngest here. This one's sleeping, and the toddler is not. So if you have interruptions, so does he when I talk to him. So, all right, honey, let me tell you about what I learned. I started listening to all these different Halloween scares, like um, poisonings and such. And I decided to just start Googling, like, how often does this happen? Surprisingly, not a lot. Um, However, there are other things that happen. I did not pin myself. I did not pin myself. I thought, I'm not walking around. There's no wind. So I might have to keep fixing my shoulder. Don't mind me. Anyway, and so I started Googling and I found a little bit more, and that's what I'm going to go over. And right now, I'm currently making a very random blanket using the moss stitch. And the moss stitch I love because it's so simple and fast. So when I'm doing something big, I like to use that unless I want it like super fancy and intricate. But right now, the fancy thing is that it's so many colors. I'm using every single um, yarn I have that's within the same kind of size, even though there's some that I don't know if you can see. Some are larger and some are quite thinner, but it ends up working out. And because they're all different colors, it's just so pretty. Look at this. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And the moss stitch is super simple. You crochet into the spaces. So you do one single crochet, then you chain one, and then you single crochet into the next space. So very easy. Oh, also, just forewarning, I'm not a niqabi when I'm like out and about. I'm just a niqabi for these videos because I'm not really sure about showing my face online like that. So whenever I start, I get my yarn around twice, and then I flip that over, and I flip that over, and then I pull through, and that's my little hoop. It's just how I do it. Um, so I go in through the top. No, the front stitches I didn't count. So I think you're supposed to have like an odd amount for this stitch, but I didn't. So I kind of just figured out what I have to do to make sure I have like an even beginning and end. Um, so I go into the first hoop, like the top, like normal, and I'm gonna pull it all the way through, make sure that tail is out, make it small, and then I crochet into that top again, just a single crochet, because that's gonna be where I start or end the next row. Now this one has 2 crochets in a row, so I'm just gonna chain one and then go into my chain one space, single crochet. I'm not showing you very well, so sorry. Chain one and then into my next chain one space. And you just keep doing that all the way through, and it works out really fast. See, chain one into my crochet space. Very simple. All right, so honey, let me tell you what I heard about. So the first one I'm gonna go over, don't mind me, is from the 1800s. Now, from what I Googled, most of the myths about watch out, they're going to poison you on Halloween started in the 1800s, but in the early 1800s. However, I could not find anything from the early 1800s, but I did find one, and like a few of the ladies I love watching online already covered this one. so you probably already heard it. It was in Bradford, England in 1858. I totally wrote notes because I didn't want to mess that up. And it actually wasn't a malevolent poisoning, but it was ginormous. Like, even for today, it would be so extreme. But back then, I imagined it was even bigger because, they didn't have as much of a population back then as we do now. So I'm thinking it was huge. So there was a candy maker, well, not candy maker, a candy seller, and what was his name? Humbug. My homie Humbug. I think it was like Humbug Billy. Humbug Billy. That was his name. Um, and he went to his dealer, the candy maker, and he saw that the peppermint lozenges. I don't know. Is lozenger like a cough drop? I feel like it is, but that's probably just over here in America. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna say peppermint candies. I'm not gonna torture myself. So he noticed that they were slightly darker, and he ended up getting this guy to give him half off. So he gets these at a deal. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. So he gets these at a deal. So he gets these at a deal, and ends up selling them at a deal. I guess he figured, he got them half off. He can give everyone else half off. And so they start flying off the shelf, and it's the night before Halloween. And I didn't realize people did trick or treating in the 1800s. Did they? But it's the night before Halloween, and they're all trying to get candy. So I guess they did. But anyway, um, I am a reaper. So I'm going to tell you my experience as a mother who used to do trick or treating with their kids. Whenever I got the candies ahead of time before trick or treat night, my kids would con me into giving them some early. Well, apparently that's been happening since the 1800s because some of these kids got sick and died before Halloween. So he sold them the day before, and that night, the first person was a 14-year-old boy. I wrote him down. Hold on one second. 14-year-old boy. No, 9-year-old boy was first. Elijah Wright. And the doctor thought, oh, it's got to be cholera because, cholera was like happening a lot in that time and place. And but it was odd because he was so healthy right before. There was nothing leading up to him being sick. It was just boom, cholera, dead. And then the next one was the 14-year-old boy. His name, Joseph Scott. And then same thing, cholera. And then there was two brothers. Now this is when people started piecing stuff together. I don't know if they talked to each other or if it was just this dad in general who was like, nah. But so the two brothers, one was 5-year-old Orlando, and the other one was a 3-year-old Henry, and they sadly passed away. And so there's a couple different reports, so I'm not sure how exactly to say it, but it was the father and someone else in the house. Now one says it's a friend of his, and the other one just says living in the house. So I'm like, maybe it was family. I don't know, but either way, they thought about it and they were like, I think it's these candies. And they decided to test it out themselves, which let me just pause. Okay, pause. The dad I get, because like as a parent, if my kids both just dropped dead and I thought it was poison, I might Romeo and Juliet myself. I don't know. I've never been in that situation, but I can understand the dad testing out himself like, oh, is it poison? But the friend and or family member, that's ride or die, man. Like that's like literally ride and I'm probably gonna die. Like he really did that. So they tested it out and sure enough they get super duper 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 sick. They don't die, but they did get really sick, and they told the doctor like, yo, it is the candies, y'all gotta warn people. And so the doctor sends it to a chemist, and the chemist finds out this is like mostly pure arsenic with a little bit of peppermint. And so they start warning everyone, and then everyone tries to trace back, where did they get these candies from? And of course, our homie Humbug, they go to him and he's like, bro. And he was like, I got it from this seller, which was, I wrote that name down. Joseph Neal was the maker. And he had an assistant, an apprentice, William Goddard. All done? All done. Good job, baby. Expect a lot of those interruptions. So, they go to him, and here the apprentice went to go get what was kind of sugar. So sugar was super expensive, and so they had like this plaster of Paris, plaster of Paris, which literally is plaster. So you know, you're trying to build your own body. That's what they were replacing sugar with. It was awesome. So it was like cut. It was sugar cut with plaster of Paris, and he sent his apprentice to the pharmacist to buy more. He needed 12 pounds of this stuff. And the pharmacist was super sick that day. He did not get enough money to work while sick, and he had to be there. So he was like, I don't care. Go find it. It's one of those, there's two unmarked barrels of white powders, and one, pause, my son. So sorry, I'm back. My toddler was toddlering, and he's getting taller now. So now he can reach things. Anyway, so what was I saying? So there's two unmarked barrels of powder. The pharmacist not checked in enough to give a crap. Just told him like, yo, it's over there, figure it out. And this is, I guess, back before they had common sense to label like, you know, this is poison, this is sugar. But the pharmacist just assumed this guy works with the candy maker. He should know which one is the sugar and which one is not. Well, he didn't. So he just took his best guess. And he got the 12 pounds of arsenic instead. And then while they were making it, both the actual candy maker and his apprentice were feeling sick, but they didn't think about that. No one thought maybe this is arsenic. But so they both were feeling sick. So it was an unfortunate accident. They did post up all over town trying to tell everyone like, yo, this is poison, don't eat it. Unfortunately, 20 people died and about 200 were very ill, which is an insane number. Like, that's a lot of people. No one was in trouble for it because it was just an accident, but ay, ay, ay. So that was the first case of a poisoning, and it wasn't malevolent. But then we go forward in time to more closer to now, 1974 in Texas. And this one caused a lot of stranger danger, and the news went crazy like, check your candies and stuff, because there was a father who poisoned his own kid. So now this dude, what was his name? Ronald O'Brien. He apparently got himself into a lot of debt, and instead of just like trying to see his way out of it like a normal person, he was like, man, I don't need these kids. And so he had two children, a son and a daughter, and he got life insurance out on them a couple months before Halloween. And he thought he was so smart that he put poison, cyanide, into a couple of pixie sticks. And he had called several, this is before Google, he had called several chemist areas, suppliers, and they ratted him out that he was asking basically how to kill people. He was like, how much would kill someone? You know, which poison would kill someone? And I mean, that's kind of obvious, bro, but whatever. And so then he planned out, he's going to give a couple poison to random kids in the area and then give his kids the poison. And then he wouldn't be suspected, you know, and he'll get the payout and everything will be fine. He chose pixie sticks. First of all, like, I'm an 80s, 90s kid. They were never cool. Like, we have so much better candy than that. And so, thank goodness none of the other children wanted pixie sticks. So they didn't eat it. They're fine. But his little boy did, and he was 9, I believe. No, he was 8. So his son Timothy ate it that night. He said he's only allowed to have one candy, and it's the pixie stick. For whatever reason, I don't know if he gave his daughter that option or not. Like, you can only have a pixie stick option, but she did not want the pixie stick, so she went to bed. She's safe, and his baby died. Baby, he's 8, but I'm a mom. They're babies. Um, he ended up having to take a polygraph test, which he failed. They found evidence of pixie dust on a box cutter, which he used to open it and put the poison in. Um, and then he admitted to giving it to other people. So technically, it is stranger danger if you think about the other kids he tried to poison. So I guess it is a case of check your kids' stuff. Although, like, wonder how he resealed them. Like, how can you really tell with some of the packaging? You know what I mean? I don't know. But that was that was that guy. He was convicted, and they gave him lethal injection because this was before they stopped it, and I guess restarted lethal injections. Um, I keep fixing this. I'm a hijabi. I'm not a niqabi. Anyway, so that was then. They said that it took the jury only 1 hour to decide he was guilty, which I guess it wouldn't take me that long either if we had all of the evidence and a confession and a failed polygraph and yeah. Well, I guess he doesn't have to pay back the whatever debt he had. But now we're moving on. There wasn't any other reported cases of poisoning that I found. However, there is quite a few tampered and dangerous stuff. And then one Halloween alone had 2 separate cases on the same night of blades in chocolates. So you have, where was it? You have Minneapolis and no, not Minneapolis. I lied. You had Connecticut and Ohio. Minneapolis is a whole other story. So in 2019, Halloween, of course, um, there were well, 3 cases, but 2 separate incidences. I don't know what just happened to my brain. And there, it started with this little boy came up to his dad and said, "Yo, this chocolate's a little hard." And so the dad broke it open, and sure enough, there's a blade shoved inside the chocolate. I think that one was like a Snickers or something. I don't I don't remember. It was a Snickers and a Reese's involved in these 2 stories. Um, the dad was like, "Whoa," and told him to check all of his candies, break them in half before eating them. Just make sure. I don't know if it was me, I'd be like, "You don't get none of these candies. I'll buy you candy. Like, you're not eating anything else. I will buy you candy." But that was the only blade in his kids. But apparently someone else that was with them also found a blade, but the mom found it while checking through the candy. It was sticking out of the package, and it cut her, and she needed like 3 stitches. But I mean, I guess it's better her than the kids. I'm sure her finger doesn't feel that way. But yeah. And then in a whole other state, same thing, except this time the blades were thrown. Like, the guy was giving out handfuls of candy and just threw it in a bag, and he was hiding blades in it. So several neighbors found blades just floating around their kids' candy bags. What a douche. Um, there was also a guy. Oh, that's the Snickers. Minneapolis, year 2000. They ended up ruling that he was mentally ill and wasn't fit to stand trial, and they put him in a mental institution. However, he was a Minneapolis man, and This is my last stitch. And then he was putting needles inside of Snickers bars. And a kid ended up biting into it and he poked himself. Luckily, he's okay, but crazy. Um, and he did it to many of kids. And one of these pockets is my scissors. I need them. Um, it's just wild. It's just wild. So tampering, there was a plenty of incidences of candy tampering where they're putting sharp objects in there. So I guess that's something to look out for. Um, then the news reports also said, like when I was talking about the myths of candy poisonings for Halloween, it said most of the tampering is done by relatives trying to prank. However, the ones I saw, they're not relatives. It's just crazy. So I guess, yes, please check your kids' stuff. Then there was another case. I don't think I wrote this. No, I did write it. Waterford. I'm not even sure what state that was in because I didn't see it in what I wrote. But this couple was checking their kids' candy. Thank goodness, because someone gave these babies THC gummies, and apparently they were quite a strong dosage. I can't even imagine children on that. Oh my gosh, I think I would die. But it was not poison, but I imagine small bodies, not excellent at all. And so that was the last of the hardcore cases. And then I was wondering, I had a friend whose child went into seizures on Halloween, never had seizures before. And so I was like, too much candy then. So then I Googled, can that happen with too much candy? Like, is that just another thing you have to add to your list of worrying? And you do, but not for all of them. So it turns out there is quite a handful of cases on black licorice. Um, there's a little boy in Italy, but then a Massachusetts. You know what I'm trying to say. Man, like in his 50s, a construction worker who died. So apparently, if you eat black licorice a lot throughout a couple of weeks, it changes your whole body. Like your cortisol gets spiked like crazy, your blood pressure, everything. So this little boy started having seizures. His brain was swelling. His cortisol was, his blood pressure was, and he did go back to normal and survived. But they said it took a couple months, which is just so scary. The man, however, he died. And then apparently there's more cases of people eating a lot of black licorice and having that happen. It's just like a chemical reaction. So in small amounts, it doesn't do anything bad, but in large amounts, oh, that's scary. They said it was the glide, something big word in it. But as far as I saw, only black licorice was the candy to be worrisome about, and you have to eat it every day for a few weeks before it starts having that accumulative effect. Words today, words today are crazy. Um, so that is all of the scary Halloween stuff. However, for me, it's not scary because for one thing, I don't like candy, and my kids don't trick or treat, and we're not really candy people in this house. And then I was thinking, like, what would be scary for me? And I was thinking, like, what if there's more deaths with produce contamination? Oh, I would die. That's all I eat. All I eat, like, literally, is produce. I would die. That would be the horror story for me. Like, you can't trust your produce anymore. So I was thinking about looking that up next just to really scare myself. And that would be really bad. I'd never eat again. I'd just wither away and die. But that is my stories for today. I got one row done and I'm starting on my next. Let me show you. Pretty. And only one interruption, only two interruptions by my toddler. So, and the baby stayed asleep. Well, that's all. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you come back so I can tell you more stories. All right. Bye, honeys.